Hey everyone, this is Jetpack Sword's Super Cool Gaming Podcast. I'm your host Greg, and with me as always is Packy, but we don't have our friend James with us today because he does not have internet. Womp womp womp. He's had some bad luck recently between no internet or headaches or backaches or car troubles. So pour one out for our homie James, who's still alive but suffering through the withdrawal of the 21st century.
Thank you for the clarification. The viewers, I'm sure, appreciate it.
Yeah.
The internet problem did, in fact, not kill him. Close, but he survived. He'll be back.
I don't know. It would probably kill me, I think. What is this, the fucking Dark Ages?
Dude,
Screw that shit.
Because he has Spectrum, and I also have had the longest outages of internet ever. Being on Spectrum, and I've been on Spectrum for 2 months, having independently paid for my internet for years and years now. And I did get into one of those where it did cross the threshold of I've done all the little things that I've done previously when I have outages where I'm I'll just clean and do other read and do other offline stuff. But I did get to the point where I was all right, well now it has crossed that threshold. This is really annoying. I really do not like that I have to go without this. It was sad. I think it was after hour 4 or 5, I was all right, I really want it back now though, please.
But see, now you said you had been reading recently, so now you could just read during, I don't know.
I do.
I don't know.
If I still read. If I lost power, I'd be screwed because I'd read mostly on my phone.
Play
I keep telling myself I'm gonna go to the library.
solitaire.
I would never.
Yeah, the good old-fashioned solitaire where you literally flip the paper cards yourself,
Oh, no, I understand. It's like when you go back and see games God, what is it called? When you bounce the ball and pick up jacks.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. No, you're talking about
Little House on the Prairie games.
Literally called jacks?
It's something jacks. Jacks is the name,
jacks.
which is why I call them that. It's just the little things you pick up. But all those little games, they could not, they don't do it for me even a little bit anymore. I look at those games where's the loot system?
It's literally called jacks. That is the name of the game.
Okay. It's a terrible game. Well, it's a great game when you're 6 and you don't know anything better. But man,
I'm not sure it's a great game even then.
Everything's so good. Sword fighting with cardboard tubes is fun when you're 6.
No. Okay, so for us, it was so we had our laundry hampers were basically, the white PVC-esque things you put together. So you take apart the laundry hamper and then those are your lightsabers, It's the fucking bee's knees right there. And then your parents yell at you why the fuck are you damaging our, ruining our laundry hampers? You're I don't know.
I think that's why we started getting the cardboard tubes. It's we would just destroy other umbrellas and stuff like that. It's all right, well, they need something.
Yeah.
They're gonna do something. So we just have to pick things and encourage them towards stuff that we don't care about.
Wrapping paper. Because those normally have really thick, they're long and they're normally pretty thick too. So they can, take a couple of hits. But you could also do the really jank thing of just putting together 10 toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls, But those were always really sad. That's who you gave to your friend who came over. It's that was the Mad Cats of fake sword fighting.
Dude, it's a shame there isn't some. I wonder if there is when kids get together in game now, if there's some equivalent to the Mad Cats controller for kids, just so that there's always somebody ostracized no matter what the activity. Somebody knows that they're lesser.
I'm sure, but honestly, third-party controllers these days are actually pretty good. Sometimes better than the first-party ones.
The only situation I can think of is you're playing the Switch, and for whatever reason you get put in a situation where somebody has to use Joy-Cons.
Yeah, that's the single Joy-Con,
individual.
Not both.
That is just objectively worse.
Yeah,
but there's no it's the same, but actually it's not.
There are some games where it's okay. I would accept a single Joy-Con in Mario Kart or Mario Party. Actually, Mario Party, you might literally have to use a single Joy-Con. I can't remember. But then, other games like Smash, for example, if you're giving me a single Joy-Con to play Smash, there's a decent chance I don't play.
Oh, 100. Yeah, especially if you have a real controller and you're let's play this game. I'm let's not. I refuse to play against you using this because I'm just gonna get mad that I lose because of this friggin' thing. I will throw out there the one game that I think it is when you're in that situation, is play, if you have it, Mario Kart, and then make everybody use tilt controls. Because that is such a fun reset if you play Mario Kart, like, on skill. Because it does not matter who's good or bad at the game anymore. Everybody now is equally shit and has to figure out how to use the incredibly overly responsive motion controls. Because they are so incredibly hard to get down.
Feels like there should be a sensitivity option there, right? Like,
yeah, but then that would hold them accountable for consistently being to a level of sensitivity. And the Joy-Con, all of Nintendo's like motion control, like sensitivity and ability to detect motion is a crapshoot. Like, I don't think it's very, very fine-tuned. So if you added sensitivity, they'd have to be fine-tuned on multiple different levels.
Yeah, that. But I agree though. Mario Kart is, I would totally, like I said, Mario Kart and Mario Party. That is acceptable. Anything else though? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, everything else just doesn't make sense. I guess if there was any console that can pull it off, because Nintendo games are typically so simple. Like, it's usually control stick and a couple buttons. There's only a select few that are more complicated than that. That's their bread and butter.
Oh, yeah. But I someone tried to get me to play like, COD Zombies on Switch with a single Joy-Con. I'd probably pull my fucking hair out. Like,
so any shooter with a single Joy-Con would be so funny to watch people play.
Literally, like, it would just be the single stick is like moving forward and then like motion control for the aiming. I feel like that'd be a thing. I mean, that's
the only
like
shooter Splatoon. I know is Fortnite, and Fortnite has auto aim for the Switch specifically and phone, because it acknowledges like, hey, you can't aim like the people who have real tools to work with, so we're just gonna give it to you, and hopefully the auto stuff works out.
Yeah. Which I think Splatoon has motion control aiming actually on Switch, which is kind of interesting.
Sure.
And I think it's like I tried to use it once and I was like, no, this is weird. I'm gonna use the stick.
Whereas like Splatoon,
I don't own it. Our friends own it. I said I played it with motion controls once, which probably means I played it a total of twice.
Yeah,
once with and once without. But I think she likes the motion controls, which is why I mentioned it. Why I remember that. Whereas like I cannot do that.
I mean, the problem is we're cursed to be sweaty gamers, and I feel like so many people who come into those controllers are sweaty gamers, and so you're like, well, I just want this to be actually really good so I can actually play really well.
I do feel like the learning curve on it's probably lower, which seems counterintuitive to us, but that's because we've already experienced the learning curve of the alternative.
Yeah. And I just think I just think motion controllers are a great equalizer, because it's incredibly niche to people who actually do play with them on any consistent basis. And like, there's enough built in, I don't know, I think it's some of the best things about like older games is there's built-in jank that adds in a natural RNG that makes it fun, makes just silly things happen, and then everybody gets to have a laugh at it instead of like just taking it super seriously and trying to win. But maybe I'm being too cynical. It also could just be a fun way to control. I can't see it that way though.
I'm trying to remember, like, I mean, the very, like, go back like 10 years to like, the iPhone 3G or whatever, and then all the ads for the shitty like racing games on it that were like, look at this motion control to steer the car.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, at the time I was like, this is so cool. It's like a wheel in your hand. And actually that brings me back to the real one. I had for the Wii, the steering wheel attachment for the Wiimote, and
I heard that was actually good.
It was. I don't remember if it was good. In fact, I'm almost positive it was like, if you wanted to be sweaty and win, it was, I believe, objectively not good, obviously.
Oh,
but
sure.
it was fun, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And that's it's motion controls are fun, or at least they can be fun. Like, and don't like some of the WarioWare games like incorporate them. Like, I like have this vague memory of playing one of the WarioWares on Max's Wii U and it using motion controls. But I can't remember for sure.
WarioWare ones. It's fun with this game up. I saw Max and one of our friends who has Switch and really, really likes WarioWare. And he got the new one. And I wanted to play, but they had already played it a little bit. And they were like really, really disappointed by it. And we actually ended up playing Mario Party. We like switched to that. And I was disappointed. I was like, oh, it was so bad it wasn't even worth showing to me. I was like, oh,
sad. I've always liked WarioWare. Like
very specifically with this guy. Like he's very good at it. He's very fun, and he adds in the energy that I think makes those games work. Because it's not like a chill gaming experience. You want people to like really want to win.
We're getting old? Do you think we're just getting old and he doesn't have the energy anymore? Like I don't think I would. I feel old these days.
I think it's like the environment. Because he's saying that he was just disappointed that the mini games weren't like super out there and crazy in the controls and stuff. Like part of the fun of those games is like sometimes you don't even know how to play when it starts. And like it's just very bizarre what to do. And he said that wasn't there. He said they all felt very what to do in each game felt sameier than any other WarioWare, which like took a lot of the fun out of it. So no, because we played WarioWare and one of my favorites is Kirby. I don't even know what the name of the game is. I don't even know what game it is in. It is just this is it Frogger, the game where you jump as a frog across the freeway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just it's a competitive version of that game where you're just jumping across lily pads. It's an N64 game, and we play it. It is dead ass simple. There are two buttons: jump one space or jump two spaces, and it's on lily pads and like little blocks of water. Full grown men all playing against each other in this fucking game, and like mashing and we're screaming. We want to win so desperately. It's like a 30-second race.
Not too old then. That's good.
No, and I am not initially great. I admittedly like previously get overly excited about like really silly, pointless. Like my entire relationship with Smash is that. Like getting way overexcited about this game that ultimately the stakes are very low. I'm not bringing that energy to new games very often. It was he 100% like got it rolling and they got me into it. Like I at first was like, oh, this game is dumb. We are not going to play this more than 2 times. I don't know why you would pick out of like the hundreds of games that he has, he picks this. And then we ended up playing them like 2 rounds in. I'm screaming because he beat me by like 0.2 seconds. About to chuck a controller of this game I've been playing for 8 minutes. It was very, very fun. So no, I think it was just unfortunately WarioWare was bad.
I miss those. I miss those moments. I'm sad, obviously.
We were
it's been
other one
a
was
while.
like this that I heard like is less hype. It might be an age thing, but I do think it's they in trying to make games a smoother new player experience have taken out a lot of the jank that made some of the old ones fun. Was the new Switch Sports, whatever it's called, I heard is not nearly as fun outside of the volleyball game. But we played the old Wii U Sports and same stuff, like especially the sword fighting one. Like we were absolutely losing it. I had a really, really great time with that game. Because I had never played it.
Do you know if he has arms? Like, because isn't arms multiplayer and it's literally like...
Yeah. It's very, very goofy. And it has the motion controls built in, I'm pretty sure, where you can literally do the punches.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that game has like a weirdly. I heard about it mostly early because it gets, it's a fighting game. There's a competitive scene for it for God knows what reason.
That is absurd. That's fucking hilarious. Actually, I didn't know that.
I was one for Splatoon and all that. Like every Nintendo game has it, and Nintendo hates you for it.
Arms? I don't know. Like Splatoon makes a little more sense to me than that. Like. Because it doesn't involve flailing your arms about wildly with motion control.
Well, it's not just motion controls, I don't think. You can bind buttons and stuff, I think.
I thought it was mostly motion controls, but then the buttons were like, I'm going to use a fire punch instead of a regular... I don't know. I made up fire punch. It's not a fire punch, but... I don't know. It's also like, I've seen people play it. Like, I had some friends who owned it, and they actually like brought it into work one day for shits and giggles. But that was like fucking 5 years ago, whenever it came out.
I never hear about it anymore. I haven't heard there's going to be an ARMS 2.
It's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's ARMS too. They did add the character to Smash Bros. Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
super fun. Love that character. Love that addition.
I'm sensing a little bit of sarcasm there.
Man, I'll say it, controversial opinion. Some of the character choices, great. How the characters actually function, anti-fun. In the last DLC pack specifically. In the first DLC pack, they were much more like, there's a couple broken ones like Joker from Persona, but most of them are pretty, like Banjo-Kazooie is an incredibly fair character, Piranha Plant is an incredibly fair character, and they have new, unique stuff, but they're not annoying. Ours is just, you know why everybody hates the anime swords characters? Because they're really annoying to fight against somebody whose entire job is to be fast and keep you at a range. And Orange just takes that same concept to an extreme. Like, it's just the most extreme version of Keep Away that is great. Anti-fun to play against. So, like, it's a very faithful rendition of Arms as a character in the game. It's just not enjoyable to play against. And actually, the most heartbreaking of this for me was Sora from Kingdom Hearts. A huge ad. The character I was begging for them to add, and then how Sora actually plays in the game is very fitting to the old games. But man, it is getting camped by my favorite character from one of my favorite games is just, oh, it hurts. It really, like, especially because I play like the run in and just mash the key combos, and I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be this really cool like key combo character. No sir, we're air camping. Which supposedly is more faithful to the original character running away and using magic, but I don't play that way, which is probably why I was bad. I couldn't beat it on proud mode.
You know, ARMS is an excellent example of why it is so disappointing that Nintendo never like lowers the price of their old games. Because like this is a game that came out in 2017 at this point, and like, why is it $60? Like,
that time of year, is it? Is it time for Nintendo's yearly spanking for their pricing model? And for Nintendo to once again look at the world, scoff, and say, cool, you're going to pay?
Like, the Nintendo is the reason that, like, used game sales exist at this point. Like, if it wasn't for them, like, GameStop would be dead. Like, and used game stores would be dead. And that's not true. There would just be less of them. And, like, they've already started to, like, move towards, like, less used game stuff specifically and more of just, like, this is the place you go. And, like, we have, like, you know, Funko Pops. And we have board games on top of used video games. And, like, we have game nights every Wednesday, right? Like, they've already transitioned into more than just, like, being a marketplace. But seriously, like, if Nintendo didn't exist, like, that would just... Nintendo single-handedly props up the fucking used game industry because their prices are so fucking stupid and ass backwards. Like, it's great. You know, I should go to GameStop and see if they have ARMS used for like $20, because still wouldn't be worth it for $20, but maybe it'd be worth it for $2.
Yeah, they really get the most mileage out of, like, I think they also are in a unique spot. For their old games, it's truly insane that, like, it's so difficult to get games like Mario Sunshine for anything that is reasonable. Like, you can't just pick that up and play it on your computer for $5. It's pretty crazy. They really, I think, mostly push people towards piracy in a very clear way for their oldest stuff.
Are the, like, some of the most aggressive on cracking down on it too, simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you realize you're the one, like, it's like the reason why Netflix was popular is because it was more convenient than piracy. And then, you know, and it's like, you have to be better than the alternative. And Nintendo's like, nah, fuck you and fuck the alternative. Like,
dude, I just saw something. I'm trying to remember what game it was, where a game is getting remastered, I believe, by Nintendo. And someone was like, I'm going to pay $10 more for a game that came out 15 years ago than I did when it was new. It was actually new.
Oh, I think I saw it too. Yeah. It's like, buy it and play it for $50, or wait 10 years and buy it for $60. I saw that meme. That's a good meme.
That's just I think Orange is a great example of a game where, like, it's a very unique offering, and you can't just be like, well, the argument for slashing prices quickly going into other games is like, well, somebody else did a similar concept with newer graphics, and that's updated and that's like brand new and shiny, and so you need to lower the cost of your game because it's no longer the premium product. But like ARMS, Smash, all those games are like so dominant. Mario, I think Mario is one of the only ones you could argue like other people even come close to doing as well.
I mean, Zelda, right?
Mario Zelda is the most egregious one because it's a third-person action RPG that you can get literally anywhere. Admittedly, everybody else is copying their model, but like they aren't doing anything particularly unique. They do just do it particularly well. And I guess that's their reasoning, right? They do something that's either so high quality other people can't replicate it, so like they're the premium product, they should charge like it, or it is like so superior to their competitors' products that like, hey, even when Breath of the Wild is 6 years old, it's still better than most other open world RPGs that are coming out today, which you can agree with or not.
I find this interesting. I was curious. I was going to be like, does Breath of the Wild cost the same as Tears of the Kingdom? And so I type in, Zelda, and I didn't realize. I mean, I probably did at some point, but I forgot that Nintendo also switched their games to $70, which feels like even shittier. Well, it's just like the other people are pretending that like, we're doing this because it's the next, the current gen version, and it's more work to make this title. And Nintendo's just like, I like money. Like it's like I like money.
Or
money,
even like,
please.
There's been a lot of, even outside of the console, I think other people have been like, look at your biggest favorite studios. They all take longer to make games than they used to. Like they just, the development cycle's getting longer. So it should cost more. Games are just more complicated, more difficult to make than ever. Nintendo has not really changed. Like Mario comes out of
they haven't done any of the things that like quote unquote justify it. And I mean, like, and we've talked about it before. It's like games should realistically, like, if they kept up with inflation, they'd be like $100 at this point, right?
Yeah.
But still, the other people at least pretend to justify the price increase, whereas Nintendo's
it's like, cool, it's time.
Nah, it's just like, it's like, okay, y'all did it, let's do it too. It's great, yes.
They've not gotten the heat for it that like Sony did because Sony was first. So like Sony was first.
Nintendo doesn't get heat for anything. They can literally do whatever they want. Like it doesn't matter. Much heat.
People,
but they don't care.
They don't.
No,
That's
they don't.
Big thing.
Okay, if they do hate on it, then it is like the quintessential example of like, I disagree with this, but I'm going to give you my money anyways. And it's like,
oh, exactly.
Stop giving them your money then. Like, it's that fucking simple. Like, if you actually have a problem with this, don't give them your money. Like, it doesn't matter how much you say, don't do this, or like have better online services, or like, like make a more powerful console, or, whatever your complaint is, right? It's like, don't give them money then. Like, don't regurgitate the same Pokemon game every year and make 2 copies every year. Well, I guess it's every other year, but yeah, and it's like, well, stop fucking buying Pokemon then. Like, Jesus, it's not hard
to me. Like there's so many others that you can say, hey, I hate their design choices or like how they operate as a company, what have you, but they're just the only ones who are doing this and doing it this well and doing it in a way that I can play with my friends. Like Pokemon, the experience for 90% of people is something you can get a phone app for and like find the ROM that like caters to the needs that you wanted because other fans wanted what you did and they made a ROM that does it, and people just don't do it. Games.
What is the one that some of our friends have been playing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Pokemon, the online competitive
Rocket.
one?
No, it's Rocket something or whatever.
I think it's just called like Team Rocket. It's the Team Rocket ROM on Fire.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think it's exactly.
Another funny thing, I was just talking about that. Max was telling me about it. Where you play from the perspective of a Team Rocket player.
Yeah.
What have people been? Oh, we can talk about that later. But I randomly had that conversation with Max. I didn't realize multiple people were playing it. But
they like a lot of our favorites.
It seems like one of those things that spreads like where I certainly like heard about it and have it on my little list of stuff that I want to go try.
I'm gonna go ahead and say some words that'll probably get this episode taken down if we ever get popular. It's rocket-edition.com. That's the thing. If you are interested in this, it is rocket-edition.com.
No, that part is not illegal because what they do, the part that would be not allowed, which we shouldn't do just on principle, is that I'm sure what that does is that gives you a like essentially a mod pack for Fire Red. So you have to have the ROM for Fire Red, and directing people towards the ROM to get their own illegal copy of the game is not allowed. But somebody distributing a mod for it is allowed. Which, of course, like...
Sounds like something that is technically legal, and then Nintendo's lawyers say, fuck you.
No, they're specifically okay with
suddenly
this.
Not. Okay,
it just makes no... They crack down on, and that's why if you ever had like a favorite ROM site, you've never had one for longer than like a couple of years because they're constantly turning over because they're constantly getting shut down. That is what Nintendo's going after. They don't go after the mod makers because it's bad press and it's a legal gray area because they are changing it. They just don't want you to get what they're changing for free, which is why like Melee has this online thriving community because it's built on a mod, and they say, hey, rip a copy of your personal physical Melee disc and upload it to your computer. That is the recommended steps that they show you because they can't tell you to download a ROM, but then people go ask, and they'll be like, hey, you can't ask that on here. And then someone just DMs you and tells you where to go get it. So it's a very interesting back and forth. Because like any
there's also that legal gray area of like, some people say that like, I swear to God, at one point, at least I read that it is legal to download the ROM if you own the cartridge or the disc. Like if you own the physical copy, then it's supposedly legal to download the digital copy. And it's part of some, like, I believe, like, digital media preservation effort, I believe, basically, or something like, some shit like that. I don't actually know.
It would make sense.
Again, that's very likely just some dumbass internet rumor that was started, like, 10 years ago and probably isn't true. But you never know. That's what I always heard.
It also all goes to intellectual property laws, which are notoriously long and vague. So I think, because I do know, I said you're allowed to mod the game, but I do know instances specifically within the competitive community where people have gotten in trouble for like broadcasting people playing a modded version of the game. And then others that haven't. So I think it's all selective. It's like, what are you doing something that directly intentionally
and there's probably like, there is legalness and then there's terms of service where like, which are like, questionably enforceable. Like, I feel like most terms of services are like, this gives us the right to like, block your account or, like revoke your license or something like that, not take you to court and sue you for tens of thousands of dollars, right? Like, that's a whole different level of like, what you did wasn't actually illegal. It just broke some, like faux binding agreement that was pre-written that stated like how you were going to operate. I had a thought. I already lost the thought. It's been a long week. It's been a very long week. Oh, I remember the thought. Are you familiar with PWAs as a software engineer? They stand for Progressive Web App, which is just like a web app that's designed to work offline, essentially. And the reason I thought of that is because I'm pretty sure like the first example of a PWA I've really seen was actually a like Game Boy Advance emulator. And so like it was literally you go to a website and you like bookmark the website or like add it to your home screen or whatever, and like that was how you could play Game Boy Advance ROMs, I believe, on your phone. Which like they're getting slightly more popular, right? Like if you have an iPhone and you've used Xbox's cloud streaming, they suggest you install that as a web app on your home screen. And actually the Lemmy client I'm using right now that I've moved off of Reddit, is also a PWA, which is kind of interesting. So Lemmy is an interesting place. It is full of people who do not understand the world, and it's really amusing. Watching it is like, it is the hive mind parts of, or like the like, it's the Linux group of Reddit. Like it's all the people on Reddit who are like, yeah, but have you used Linux? And then like it's only those people that have moved to Lemmy and like nobody fucking else. Like, and it's very obvious because you want to know what fucking community I see scrolling RL most of the time. I see a lot of fucking Linux posts, and I'm like, you know what? This tracks with the general attitude and like other stuff I'm seeing on the site. I'm like, this very much tracks of just like people who don't understand how the world works, and like you'd like to live in your perfect little happy bubble, and like that's great, and like I understand that works for you, but that's not how the world works, and it's an interesting place. I've been enjoying it for the most part, but I don't know. There's a funny little like, so recently, Meta announced Threads. It's theoretically going to be part of this Fediverse. Everyone there is like, we should defederate like preemptively. I'm just kind of like, I don't get why the fuck you all care. And they're like, we hate Meta. And I'm just kind of like, why do you trust these random fucking people hosting your servers that you don't fucking know? Like, at least Meta has the scrutiny of like every single regulator on the planet, like staring down them, breathing down their neck. Like they have to like abide by some level of decency, even though they're still a shitty company, because like they're one of the biggest companies on the planet, and so they're like heavily fucking regulated. Whereas like these Joe Schmo fucking like server admins hosting these instances like aren't. And then like as I'm thinking this, and as people are posting like, this sucks, I see a post. It's like, Lemmy.ml was taken over by hackers or whatever. And I'm just like, you know what's not going to be fucking taken over by hackers? Fucking Threads. Because they're fucking competent software engineers that have like actual code reviews and like security and privacy reviews. And like, they know how these things work.
That seems pretty out of touch with the popular opinion on Threads so far, which is more, I don't even think it had anything to do with Threads. It was just the first company to put out a palatable product that had enough mainstream appeal, i.e. feed in from Instagram and the last shreds of Facebook and Meta's reputation. And people are just like, oh, thank Christ. It's something that's not Twitter that could be viable. It's moving time.
Yeah, no, like, and like, it's going to succeed. Like, and you want to know actually also why I think it's going to succeed? And I don't know, this is probably almost very, very intentional. The Threads by Instagram. That's why it's going to succeed. Instagram is, I think, like you said, like that is their one of their last known good, like the Facebook brand is trash. Exactly. Right? Like the Facebook brand is garbage. Like if they did Threads by Facebook, it would not succeed.
Yeah, or tied the functionality into Facebook. It would have been dead on arrival.
But they know that Instagram is actually liked. It's actually popular. And like the fact that they chose that as the backing horse for Threads is like, that was a very smart move on their part. Because if they had linked it to Facebook, like, and maybe they will eventually, right?
Or even
but like at least initially. Yeah. Meta would have been better than fucking Facebook. Like,
it's definitely a ranking, but both are so far below Instagram. People still forget that Instagram is associated with Facebook somehow.
Instagram and WhatsApp are like their two properties that like truly, genuinely people like and like don't actually have a bad reputation. I mean, like Instagram should have a bad reputation. It's garbage, but it's garbage that people like.
Use Instagram. I never even it was probably the first of the social media waves.
I would have made a Threads account, honestly, if I didn't have to make an Instagram account to do it.
That's been my flaw from looking at Instagram photos before. It's like, actually, no, I have an Instagram account, and it was solely to look at like other people's pictures. Or finally, like I got sent some, you can get linked there from like Google results. It's like, all right, well, this is useless. But then somebody literally sent me photos, and they were just only on Instagram. I was like, fine, I will make the account so I can look at your trip.
See, that's frustrating, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Google Photos or like Apple Photos are like better tools for that job.
Oh my God, there's so
many.
But I
guess, I don't know. I guess Instagram's fine for it, but
Instagram just serves a different purpose. It's not like true image sharing. It's still about like communities and connecting you with people and all that stuff.
And it's getting less and less about your community or your direct community, and more like all social media these days, about connecting you with people that aren't in your direct sphere, right? Like via the algorithm, which is awful.
So communities
and
are just way larger. It's cults of personality around certain individuals on Instagram.
Exactly. Like, and it's people that like you like decent chance you've never seen ever, you've never met in real life, which is like, I don't necessarily know how I feel about that. Like, it feels like, and maybe
it's bad. Don't worry. You know how to feel. You're just not sure about it. Hey, let me tell you, you're right. It's a bad thing.
It's bad. No, it's bad. No, don't get me wrong. Like, and that's where, like, you know, I agree with the sentiment of all these people on Lemmy and elsewhere that are like, Meta's a bad company and they're ruining society. I agree with you, like 100% wholesale. I agree with you, but I also like can appreciate the fact that they're at least pretty good at their jobs. And like, yeah, the fucking like site takeover that happened on Lemmy.ml or whatever ain't gonna fucking happen with Threads. Like,
I think some people just like misattribute what happens on incredibly large scale social media sites and like blame the company. It's like, really, it's the concept that gets us into trouble in a lot of ways. And like whoever executed on that concept wasn't going to avoid that problem. Like these huge cults of personality are very direct. This is so far off topic, but like it's just a consequence of everybody across the country, across the world is connected now. Like these huge communities that are mostly focused on some simple concepts, some simple people, were always going to happen as a result of all that. It's not Facebook's fault. They executed the concept first. They sold our data. That was fucked. They're going to do it again with Threads. No doubt in my mind. I'm sure they're actively doing it. But
they're not going to sell your data. They're going to use it to sell ad slots to advertisers based on your data. That is I can see them selling distinction.
I bet they'll have a relationship with like AI companies. That's where this is all going to go. Like the Threads and Twitters of the world, anywhere where it's a lot of user-generated text, that's going to be like, hey, that stuff is valuable to sell a voice that computers can replicate.
I thought it was interesting. Again, super off topic. I saw an article the other day that was like, OpenAI and Google aren't actually like the leaders in AI, even though they're the ones that like kind of get a lot of it. But like, they're like, there's this third player, and like the article is super, clickbait fucking title. Anyways, apparently the third player, and I thought this was really interesting, is so Meta released their large language model called Llama, I think is what it's called. And apparently like the really, really good AI stuff right now is not ChatGPT or Google's work. It's actually like smaller people that used Meta's Llama model as a base, and then they improved upon it. And so they were basically saying like, this is going to then set Meta obviously up to like be able to bring back those, improvements from the open source community back into their, private internal stuff. I don't know, it was kind of an interesting thing. They're also getting sued, which is funny, and it was bound to fucking happen for training, which is kind of the downside of because they open source this and they like shared their training set. They were like, these are the sources we bought our training data from, and because they did that, it's now very blatant that it's like they use this training set. This training set was known to use copyrighted work without permission. And so it's like, it's kind of a pretty clear-cut case, which the question is, did Meta know that they did that? And the answer is they probably didn't, because the training sets are so fucking huge that no one can know. But also it doesn't matter if you knew or not, you still did it, right? So they're still going to pay a fine.
They're the beneficiaries, and they're the biggest wallet who benefited.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, they're the ones starting because they're the ones with the billions of dollars, so it's a pay, right? Like,
yeah, not just fair. They not only stood to profit the most in a very legitimate way, right? Like, hey, they benefited the most off people stealing our shit, but also they're the ones who are most likely to be like, you're probably right, and we will pay to make this go away. They're just a good choice. I don't think anybody should feel bad about them paying out for it, because if
absolutely not.
Whoever AI works out for, they're going to make such an obscene... They're not going to rule the world like people think they're going to, but they're going to make an obscene amount of money.
Have you noticed that people don't like technology? It's very interesting. We've hit the point in society where people don't like it. Like, and to be fair, it
People,
probably hit it a couple of years ago, but like it's gotten really bad recently. Like,
I think
people don't like
people don't like the wealth that has come of it, or
it.
the
Yeah.
like
Yes,
personalities that
that.
have come out of it, and the culture that's come out of it. I think people, like, more than ever, technology and its use is integrated into everything we do. If you took away whatever AI, like virtual assistant or search engine that people use, like in any given person, like it cripples their ability to do stuff week to week. Like,
Well, and I think also it's very much like you said, the wealth associated with it. And it's like it
yeah,
used to be that, like, you know, you go back to the Industrial Revolution and like technology should enable us to work less, right? Um, but instead it's just now people are scared of it and dislike it because it's, instead of working less, it's going to be not working at all. And like our government is completely inadequate and incapable of providing for its citizens if that were to happen. And so like you see the things, it's like, the most recent one I saw was like some self-driving car thing expanded trials in San Francisco. Maybe it's Waymo, actually. I don't remember for sure. And like people are just like putting cones in front of the cars or on top of the cars to like fuck with it. And I'm just like, this is why we can't have nice things. Like I get that,
yeah,
like you're upset because you're worried that like you think this is some like dystopian future or some shit where it's gonna like steal all the taxi drivers' jobs or whatever. But like this could be a good thing. Like this could be a really good thing for society if like we have a safer, cheaper form of private transportation. Obviously, yes, we should have buses and subways and shit. But like in America, at least, we have a need for cars in a lot of places. And so if we can have autonomous cars that get you there cheaper than owning one and paying for insurance and doing all this shit and safer than driving yourself because it doesn't get tired and all this, then like that's just going to be a great thing for society. And you're just like ruining it. And this is why, and we're like the same thing with like food delivery robots, which it is, I agree 100%, just like the most ridiculous thing, like the little fucking robots that like drive down the street and like bring pizza, like
yeah.
carry the pizza. But like, you don't fucking kick it over. Like, I don't know. Like, and again, it's just like, I think it's a group of people that like, they just don't like technology. They don't like the wealth that's created, like you said, and they're and associated with the wealth that's creating, it's creating wealth by not paying human employees. And there's just like a growing distrust of it, which is a
Yeah.
complete off topic from video games. Like, so
I can afford this.
100%.
I think we've given up on video games for this one.
No, I want to go back. I actually got something to go back to, but go ahead.
This all started. Yeah, I'll leave it. I'll leave that one. I think there's a lot of problems, and certainly people and technology and the people associated with technology have become the face for that problem of like, yeah, it really all comes back to the government and the way wealth is distributed does not serve people. And then you look at technology, it's going to take those same people who like are at your disadvantage and just make their situation way worse. Like, self-driving cars are going to do huge things for human society, but in the today and now, like truck driving is the most common job in I think 30 states of the 50 in our country. Like if those disappear overnight, that is a problem because as much
and like
as we
it's a
would
good
want,
job too. Like it's not just like like it's common
yeah,
because it's needed and it's a
you're
good
making
job.
60, 90K a year.
Like it to be fair, it's also like that kind of lifestyle that like you have to be okay with. Like you have to like you don't have to be single, but like you basically have to be single to be a truck driver because like you just spend so much time on the road away from like if you did have a family, away from your family, right? And like but like if you're okay with like those like cabins in the trucks, like I'm assuming you've seen them, like they're decked out these days. They're so nice. It's like if you're okay with sitting in a truck on the road for like 12 hours a day and then like just chilling out in your cabin and like playing video games, like hell yeah, like that pays really well. You just got to be okay with the lifestyle. So earlier I made a comment about like, if you gave me a single Joy-Con to play Call of Duty on Switch on, then I'd cry. And someone was, when I said that, it was probably just like, what do you mean, Greg? You can't play Call of Duty on Switch. Well, maybe someday. ...
No, we're not talking about the merger today.
No, it's real quick. No, because there's a quote. I just want to read the quote.
All right,
it's
as
a
long
good
as it's
quote.
short, because we're not at the 48-minute mark. We're not introducing the biggest piece of gaming news possibly for the year.
Well, also because like it's still not done, right? So the quick summary is
I thought this was the final
FTC appealed, like literally an hour ago. FTC appealed the decision. So the original decision was, judge said, no, this is not. This does not significantly reduce competition. It's not monopolistic. There's no legitimate concern. FTC made their case basically like, which admittedly consolidating in power is generally bad, but judge was like, realistically in this market, they're still going to be third. Like anyways, a couple interesting things from that. I'm sure I will be quick. FTC tried to basically say that Switch wasn't a competitor to PlayStation and Xbox, which is interesting. And the judge was just like, nah, you're wrong. The Switch is a competitor. And the funny thing is like also, even if Switch wasn't, and even if the acquisition closes, Microsoft would still be behind Sony, like in pretty much every measurable metric, which is why it's still kind of funny. And then, you add in Switch and Nintendo, it's like, okay, it's not any close. But yes, so the FTC just filed their appeal. It most likely won't go anywhere. It seems to be that like the judge's decision was pretty well thought out and well rationalized. And so like more than likely it'll get shot down in the appeals court. And equally likely, there's a decent chance that they'll close regardless. I think there's some weirdness with timing because it's set to close on the 18th, I think, which is 6 days from today. And like technically they can close even if this is in process. And then basically they might just have to divest something later after the fact, which is actually apparently normally how a lot of these things work, is like the FTC will just like retroactively sue, which is kind of interesting. And then as a result of this, once that happened, then the UK regulator, the CMA, they agreed to negotiate with Microsoft to reach some compromise because they had initially rejected it on the basis of cloud gaming, which was hysterical because it's not a thing. Even though Microsoft would like it to be a thing, it's not a thing. And then Microsoft was appealing it to the CAT, is what it was called. And the Prime Minister and basically were like, because like they don't want the UK to, the government is like, let's be nice to businesses so they give us their money, which is admittedly kind of the fucked up thing, right? But like, it was looking like, there would have been pressure from other parts of the government in the UK to agree to some compromise. But they've officially gone back and said they're going to negotiate. So like, it is very much looking like this deal will close in some form or another in the next month or so. Anyways, the quote I wanted to read, because as I'm saying this, a lot of people are like, this is fucking stupid. This is a $60-70 billion deal from like one of the biggest market cap companies, like using their wealth to bolster their position in a market they're losing in. And like a lot of people arguably, say that's not a good thing. We should not allow that. We should not encourage that. But I mean, as the court case showed, it's like even with it, it's nowhere close to a monopoly. Like it's not even close. But there is this really good quote from the court opinion. I don't know what it's called. Anyways, Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been described as the largest in tech history. It deserves scrutiny. That scrutiny is paid off. Microsoft has committed in writing, in public, and in court to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for 10 years on parity with Xbox. It made an agreement with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Switch, and it entered several agreements to, for the first time, bring Activision's content to several cloud gaming services. And I just kind of like that quote because I feel like it's a very level-headed, like, rational take on it that, like, yes, it's giant. Yes, it's a good thing that, like, even though it turned out that, like, the FTC's case was pretty weak when it comes down to it, it's still a good thing that it happened because it led to some of these other things, right? Like if it had just gone completely unchallenged and those other commitments weren't made, then that would be like, yeah, probably just worse. But instead, things are not just going to maintain status quo. They're going to get better they're going to get better for at least 10 years. Then who knows? Maybe after the 10 years, they get worse. But for at least 10 years, things are going to get better because of regulatory scrutiny. So like, I just really appreciated that quote from, I'm assuming the judge was the person who wrote it, but maybe it was like a clerk or something. But like I said, just a very level-headed, rational approach to like, this is massive. It's not, the end of the world and we shouldn't block it, but like, it's a good thing that we looked at it. So I don't know. Good quote.
Yeah. I mean, I think the judge captured, I don't think it was the linchpin of their case, but it was certainly one of the biggest points. And they're like, they give you exactly what you asked for. So we can all be happy that one of the marquee pieces of this deal will continue to be accessible to everyone. I think we can all agree that the requirements to put it on the Switch is a huge loss, and that developers who work on Call of Duty are crying right now that they're going to have to make this compatible for Switch.
So I am assuming they mean Switch 2, and at which point I'm assuming a Switch 2 will be around the fidelity of a Series S. So I actually doubt it will be that bad, is my gut feeling.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, whenever all that comes out, we're just going to, if it's for 10 years, there will be a point where Switch's hardware, Nintendo's hardware is once again way behind. And Nintendo and Call of Duty, as it's known to do, is graphically going to be trying to push the edge. And they're going to be stuck with that. Actually, I don't even think that's what's going to happen. I think they will stay committed to the important part of that promise, which is to Sony. And they will probably like give a very meet the minimum requirement kind of response for Nintendo. Like they will either be a generation behind or will be gimped on their features or will be like throttled in some way, shape, or form. Like there'll be something where Nintendo gets a worse end of this deal, but they didn't expect to get anything in the first place, so they're probably still happy for whatever it is.
I was gonna say, like that's what you should always look back to, is like these games would never be there in the first place. They're gonna be there now. And even if it is, a Switch game, it's still there. You still have that option, and like they would never have been streaming on a cloud. They would never have been offered in a subscription service. Like, and so like it's all these things that like, and that was part of the thing is like the FTC is, trying to say like, but maybe that's the case. And like, Bobby Kotick literally testified under oath. He's like, I don't believe in subscription services. Like, and he's like, I had no intentions ever of putting any of these games on a subscription service. Right? And so it's just like,
that is the crazy part to me. People have like been like, all right, well now the deal's going through, so we're going to start maybe getting some of those freebies. It's like, it's in the court case. They tell you that they don't think they can make their money back by adding it all to the subscription service. That's not their end game here. They're going to add some of it. It's going to improve the subscription service undoubtedly, but it's not all coming. They need the money from those sales to make this profitable.
Yeah, like WoW, for example. WoW's not going to be in Game Pass. It's never going to be in Game Pass. And like, I'm okay with that. So it's okay. That what will be a mount. Every 3 months, there will be a free mount as a Game Pass Ultimate perk. I fucking guarantee it.
It's gonna happen.
Sure. But yeah, no, my guess is 10 years come down the road, they stop releasing it on the Nintendo platforms, but I bet they keep releasing COD and stuff on PlayStation because it's free money. It's literally, and that was another thing, is like they were literally like, here is the economics of it. If we don't release this on PlayStation, we lose money. It's just like, it's very blatant, easy math of like, we will not stop doing it.
I don't think this is valid.
We will lose money.
Like, as far as the merger goes, because you could be theoretically willing to run a pretty significant loss if you thought it would put your competitor out of business. Because then once they go out of business, you recoup it afterwards. But no, I don't think there's like,
and then it was the combination of it wouldn't put them out of business.
And
exactly. On top of that, it would, provide reputational damage to the brand, right? Because, like, there'd be some number of people that are like, okay, well, I'm not buying an Xbox or whatever out of spite. Instead, I'm just going to go, buy a Switch or play something else or, whatever. So
it's exactly
it's
right?
interesting.
Like, if they were too fucky about it, then people are just going to get pushed to a new game. And FPSs, like people have been chopping at the bit for years to knock Call of Duty off its horse. So, I think people are being overreactionary on both sides. I don't think this is going to be like the boon Xbox.
Well, no, that's why. Yeah, we'll see. Like I don't know, honestly. I mean, Microsoft's been pretty straightforward that like a big part of this deal for them is the mobile space, actually, right? Like, I think
that was my thought from the beginning.
They care more about COD Mobile than they do about COD. I literally think they care more about COD Mobile than COD. Like,
for sure.
Up. And Hearthstone, like, dude, I bet they're fucking like jizzing their pants over getting Hearthstone in their catalog as just like a mobile game that prints fucking money selling card packs. Like, so yeah, we'll see. Which also, that was another thing too that was kind of interesting. Of they were like, another thing that maybe wouldn't happen without this is in the EU, I think the EU passed the law that Apple and Google have to allow third-party app stores. And so like I think Microsoft's banking on that so they can release the Xbox App Store on those platforms and then put Candy Crush and COD Mobile and Hearthstone and all of this stuff in there and kind of avoid the Apple cut, which is again a good thing, right? Like it's arguably pro-competitive as opposed to anti-competitive in that regard. And so yeah, I don't know, it's going on for so long. It'll be, if this closes next week, I'd be fucking ecstatic just for the fact that it would be done with.
All right, speaking of that's 10 minutes of Xbox talk. We'll save the rest for James.
Yep.
So I do think there's so many different ways I think this is going to actually impact things, and I'm curious. I still need to like actually do a little bit of reading on what has changed and kind of what other concessions they made, because I know it's not just the Call of Duty thing.
It's mainly agreements with cloud streaming providers, right? So like GeForce Now and Boosteroid, which I think operates outside of the US, and some other ones, right? So, and it's not just Activision games, right? Like they've already put their first party studios or first party games on GeForce Now. So like that was kind of the other benefit of like this wasn't going to happen before, but because they needed to look good for regulators, they have already put some of their own games there, which is good, right? Because then if people have GeForce Now and they want to play those games, they can play those games. So it's all around good. But yeah, it's like I said, 18th is when it's supposed to close, I think. So there is a 2% chance that when we do this podcast next week,
I was going to say,
I will then immediately hop off to go play Dion. I'm just kidding. They're not going to do it. It's not going to be that quick. But I think that's a good way to wrap it up. And then, yeah, hopefully we have James next week. Hopefully he has internet and doesn't have a headache or backaches or whatever.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully I'm not fucking tired. I'm super tired. That's it, everybody. Thank you for listening. Bye.